back table to move up.
Don't be shy.
I promise I won't call on you or look at you if you don't want me to. But I guess the only question is don't block the cameras.
Yeah.
Cool. Much better. Okay, so we're going to talk in two pieces. The first one is I remember when I was a BlueStamp camper, I was, I think, going into my senior year, and I was all like worried about what I was going to do with my life. Like, what was I going to major in college? What was I going to do after college? And so I just want to give a little talk on kind of how I got from BlueStamp to literally where I am right now. That's going to be part one. Part two is I ended up for the past 2 years working in tech, and I realized through like the job application process that there were just all of these jobs in tech that I never knew existed. And so I was a product manager, which was a job that I never knew existed until I applied for it. And I just want to give you a little deep dive on that job in particular. The broader picture though here is there are all sorts of jobs in tech that you probably haven't heard of, and it is awesome to explore them because you might actually really like them. Does that make sense? I'm going to run through part one is going to be a lot of me talking at you. Part two you should prepare for. I'm going to ask you questions, and I will stand here until someone raises their hand. So please don't make it super awkward for me. So part one, how did I get here? High school, I loved chemistry. That was just my favorite subject in the world. I thought it was so cool. Thought it was way cooler than all the other subjects. I had no exposure to engineering, but I went to BlueStamp. And I built, when I was here, how many people know what they're, you all decided on your final projects? Anyways, I built a vertical wind turbine. It was like spun this way, it lit up a little LED light. I had so much fun. My takeaway was like, hey, I really like engineering as well. And so I decided, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And this is what I decided. I decided in college, I loved chem, I liked engineering as well, but I decided I wanted to major in chemistry. I decided for my job, I wanted to be a doctor. And it turns out to be a doctor, you have to go to med school. So, this was what my application essay to college said. It said, hi, I love chemistry, I want to be a doctor, I'm going to major in chemistry, go to medical school and be a doctor. Sounds great. Black is planned, purple is unplanned, which should give you a hint at where this is going, although I don't know very well. So, how many people, the one I'm going to do this guy. When I went to college, I had to get people to write letters of recommendation for me. So the person who wrote my letter of recommendation wrote it, but he made me promise that I would take a computer science class my freshman year of college. So I went to college, I started out as a chemistry major, I took a computer science class, and I was like, this is super, super cool. I think the thing that I loved about it is that I could write a program once, and it would scale really well. So like, how many people have classes where your teachers give you a sheet, a piece of paper that has when all the exams are? Or like when homework is due? Kind of like a syllabus? Anyone? Some people get syllabi, maybe? Okay. So what I always found, I always wanted that info in my Google Calendar, because that's like what I used as my calendar, and it was so annoying to have to like manually put everything over. So I took a computer science class, I also knew how to program. I wrote a program that would automatically parse all of that info and put it into my Google Calendar, and I saved so much time. And it was so much fun, I gave it to all my friends, and they were like, this is awesome. And so I got super excited about computer science. And so after taking literally one class in computer science, I decided, scrap this plan. I'm actually going to major in computer science. Yes, computer science. And I made that decision. And I think there were two reasons. This was like a really scary decision for me, and I think for two reasons. The first is that I had only taken one computer science class, right? Like I took all this chemistry in high school. I knew for sure that I loved it. And I was making this big decision on kind of an N of one, if any of you have taken like science classes. And the second reason I thought it was really scary is I went to college, and for the first time, I was surrounded by people who had been doing computer science since like their sophomore years of high school, and I just hadn't. And so there was a big question in my mind, which was like, am I actually good enough to go do this major if I don't have the same experience as some other people that I see? So this was a really scary decision. After like a lot of debate and a lot of like talking to different professors in school, I decided to make it anyways. And I started to realize, especially once I started taking computer science classes, realize that kind of the combination of computer science and medicine is really cool. Because if you look at medicine today in the US, we actually have a really high quality of care, so we can like treat people really, really well, but not everyone has access to that quality. So there are a lot of people who just like can't receive that quality of care. One of the cool things about computer science, like I said before, is its ability to scale. And so I started to see computer science and programming mostly as a way to try and like help people who don't have access gain access to much higher quality of care. Does that make sense? So I was like, hey, I'm going to take this little deviation here, but my plan was after I majored in computer science, I was going to go straight back to medical school and be a doctor that had a computer science background. Does that make sense? So how many people here have heard about burnout? Does that make, yeah, some people? Basically, it's like when you do too much and then you get tired. So senior year of college, I took a ton of classes. I loved them all, but it was a lot of work. And I woke up literally at 10 p.m. One night, and I was like, oh my god, I'm way too burned out. I need to take a break before I do this. So I applied to 4 random jobs. One is, I was applied to a software engineering job. I applied to be a data analyst for an NFL football team, which is a little bit random. And I applied to be a product manager at Dropbox. So I knew what a software engineer did. I'd done that before. I knew what a data analyst did. I'd done that before. I literally had no idea what a product manager was, besides reading the 1-paragraph description next to the job. Then I decided to take a leap of faith. I applied, and I got the job. So I was like, scrap grad school for a second. I went all the way over, and I was a PM at a company called Dropbox. And it turns out being in the real world is awesome. I had a salary. I could support myself. I wasn't relying on my parents. It was incredible. And so after about a year at my job, I was like, you know what? I really like this. Maybe I should just stay. Like, maybe I don't need to go do this whole medical school thing. And actually, I went and talked to BlueStamp. How many people know BlueStamp has a branch in San Francisco? Maybe. So I was in San Francisco for this job. I went and talked to them in San Francisco. And if you go back and look at my talk, I literally talk about how I decided I didn't want to go to medical school. But the medical school that I got into, which is in New York, called me up about, actually around that time, and said, hey, we need to know if you're going to come or not. And if you're not going to come, you're giving up your spot permanently. And so I had to make this big decision. And I debated, and ultimately what I decided is it seemed like there was this really cool emerging space right in between being a doctor and kind of working more on the tech side, which is really the combination of two. There are a bunch of companies out there that do this. There are a bunch of doctors that kind of sit in this position. And not that many people who become doctors have backgrounds in tech. So I actually thought going to medical school was a really cool opportunity to end up in this kind of intersection area. And even though my job was awesome and I loved it, I decided that I actually, in fact, did want to go back here. So I literally moved back here, quit my job a month ago. I moved back to New York, and I've been in kind of pre-medical school for the last 2 weeks, so just slightly longer than you've all been here. So I think the 2 points I would make here is, one, a lot of this was unplanned. Actually, the majority of this was unplanned. I didn't take any of the planned paths except maybe this one, but I haven't even finished that yet. So, and I would say every one of these deviations was a really stressful decision, right? Like, to go from wanting to major in chemistry to deciding to major in computer science was scary. Going from a PM, but going back to school was really scary. I went from a salary to having no salary. I went from like a lot of security to like not as much. And I think that even though all of those decisions were scary, in retrospect, I was glad that I had made them. So one is expect your path to change, and 2 is those changes will be scary, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing to do. Does that make sense? That's my advice. So that's part 1. I will try and save like a couple minutes at the end for questions. Last time I did not succeed, but I will do better. Part 2 is coming up, which is, let me put the camera, product management. So this was, general point is there are a ton of jobs in tech and in kind of whatever field you want to go to that you probably haven't heard of.